today's world, we're surrounded by devices and technology. And this is great. I love technology. I blog and talk about it on this YouTube channel. And it really helps us staying connected with each other and, help us, be productive and useful in our everyday lives. But there is another side to technology and the devices that we have at our fingertips. And that's how it can get in the way of being present with our family and friends, but also our well-being and how much time it takes and consumes of us. So in today's video, I wanted to touch on 5 tips on how you can become more digitally minimal, if that is a word. So this is really based on the concept of digital minimalism that I picked up from a book that was written by Cal Newport called Digital Minimalism. And these are 5 tips that I took from that book. So let's jump into it. Number 1, decluttering your home screen. So this could be any of your devices, but I'll focus on a phone because this is probably the device that we use most throughout the day. And it's probably, if you're anything like me, you pick up your phone, you unlock it, and there's apps everywhere, and you've probably got multiple pages with multiple apps on. So what I've done recently is I've gone through those and I've removed a ton of those apps and moved them into the apps library. And I only keep the apps on my home screen that I really need to use on a day-to-day basis, and all the others are moved. This, for me, provides some friction. So when I go into my phone, I'm looking for a specific thing. And if there's loads of apps there, I can quite easily get distracted and click into another one. So that could be Instagram, it could be TikTok, it could be Facebook, and you could end up scrolling endlessly on those apps. And it could be 30, 40, 50 minutes before you realize you've been scrolling for that long. So by decluttering and giving yourself that friction, you're less likely to get into that, web of surfing through different apps and doom scrolling. So certainly something that I would recommend you do is looking at really decluttering that home screen. Number 2 is setting specific time for when you use devices and being really specific with them. This could be setting time for you to use social media. So this could be sometime after work, you spend 40 minutes and that's your time to scroll, respond, look at new things. There's also other ways in which you can be more present, I guess, or more deep work oriented, and that's using focus times as well. So most phones have this, the iPhone particularly, you can set multiple modes, whether that be work, whether that be filming, whether that be driving. So you can put these on and you can set them to block certain apps as well, so that it allows you to focus on the task at hand. So that is another really good thing that you can use your technology to do, but it also stops you from using that technology and allows you to crack on with the things that you need to do, or just block out the world and allow you to go and do something with your friends and family. Number 3, removing unused apps. I'm terrible for this. I am one of those people who will download an app, use it once, and then forget about it. So I recently decided to do a bit of an app audit. So that's basically just going through your apps, and if I haven't looked at it in the last 3 months, or if I can't remember the last time I looked at it, I'll delete it. If you do need it again in the future, it's easy enough to go back and download it back, and then you can get rid of it again when you need to. Another thing about apps, it's not just about maybe removing the unused apps that you have, but maybe it's about removing the apps that consume the most of your time and stop you from doing other things because you just lose track of time in those apps. So, I know quite a few people who have done social media breaks. So they've taken 30 days where they've deleted, say, Instagram from their phone, and they just leave it off their phone for 30 days and then they go back on. So you can do these little social media breaks or whatever it is that consumes your time, and you can always go back to it. But it's always good to take an audit on your apps that are not being used or consuming a lot of your time. Number 4, managing notifications. So we all get loads of notifications throughout the day, and you can control this. So if you go through, and it's kind of similar to doing an audit on your apps, audit what you have on your phone and what you want to be notified of and what you need to be notified of. So for instance, you might not want to be notified of breaking news. I stopped my notifications on news because I was finding it quite depressing, to be perfectly honest. There wasn't a great deal of good news that was coming out. But I also have turned off notifications for my mail. I also turn off notifications for kind of sports apps that I don't really need to be notified on. And, you know, on my focus time, I block out apps like WhatsApp or, you know, messages or notifications from social media so that I can actually focus. And that's the great thing about the focus time. You can do that blocking, but you can also allow the apps that you do need to come through. And then you go through, do an audit on what apps you want to get notifications from and block the rest. It's really easy to do. Just go into your settings and just toggle them off. Last but not least, number 5, reviewing your subscriptions. Now, this doesn't just mean your subscriptions to things like Netflix and Prime and all of those other streaming services that we have at our fingertips. You know, we've recently unsubscribed to Netflix because we weren't using it, and it was costing us £10 a month or whatever it is. So that's £10 that we're getting back, and it's not something that we've missed. So definitely have a look at those streaming services that you use and that you don't use, and make a decision on whether or not you want to keep them or not. The other thing on subscriptions is when you subscribe to newsletters. So I do this quite frequently. I sign up to a newsletter, I'll read it a couple of times, and then I don't read it again. Now, there are some newsletters which I do read all the time and I find them really interesting and really great. So I keep those. But it's definitely worth going through and looking at which newsletters you're not actually reading, or, you know, you've subscribed to notifications from a shopping app or something along those lines, but you don't really need it. Just look at those, make a decision, and then you can unsubscribe. You'll find that this completely declutters your mailbox, which I know a lot of us have a mailbox anxiety when you start to see that count going up. So this is one really good, easy step to reducing that anxiety. So those are the tips that I would recommend if you want to start looking into digital minimalism and gaining a little bit more time back from your devices and being more present. I personally have found it really helpful for my own mental well-being, but also being able to spend more quality time with my family. If you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate it if you could give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button, and I'll catch you in the next one.